You're listening to the Known Legacy Podcast, brought to you by Known Legacy Ministries. For more information, go to knownlegacy.org. Now here's your hosts, Bill and Travis.
Doing a little voguing right there. Doing a little voguing.
You kind of got me. I saw that.
I know.
Saw that.
Hey, welcome to you guys to the Known Legacy Podcast. We are so happy you're here.
Yes.
Man, just as always, if you find this beneficial to you, if you could give us a rating, that'd be fantastic. If you could share it with your friends, that'd be great. We're on Instagram. We're on YouTube. We are on the Facebooks.
In the Twitter machines.
And
we're not on the Twitter.
We are not on the Twitter sphere.
We're on the YouTubes.
We are on the YouTubes. Man, so if you could do that, that'd be fantastic. This is season 5. We are so excited to be here.
It is so good to be back.
I know. It is so
Episode
good.
2.
I know.
Super pumped about seeing this.
We're doing a few things different. So
Yeah.
some of the stuff you'll see different is we're going to release one every Thursday.
Yes.
And so it's not twice a month now. It's going to be every single Thursday we're going to have a podcast. So we're excited about that. And one of the new segments we're doing is you have a chance to submit questions, and we will answer those questions. And one of the questions that was submitted today was, let me see this real quick. It says, what did you guys watch this summer?
Okay.
So we'll get to that in the hot take, which will be recorded and released next week.
Yes. So we're going to ask a question every week. We expect you to email info@knownlegacy.org with your
knownlegacy.org. And Bill, tell us update on the book real quick.
It's going good. Just waiting on design stuff and finished product. Hopefully have it released the end of September, beginning of October. That's one of those fluid dates.
Fantastic.
But we're looking for this year to get that book out.
All information at knownlegacy.org. Go there often, bookmark it, and visit it because we update it once a year. And so... you want to be there right when it updates.
Highly impactful.
Like, this was it. It's like Groundhog Day.
Exactly.
It's very much like Groundhog Day.
Exactly.
And as always, we have a big retreat coming up in Lone Star, Camp Lone Star this year. It's called Long Shot Ministry. It's for guys and men, and it is a fantastic weekend. And Bill and I have a chance to speak there for year number 3.
We're excited.
Which we're excited about. So do Google search on that. Register. It's in LaGrange, Texas. So if you're in the area, we'd love to see you.
And you can actually go to knownlegacy.org and get more info on that. It's in there. Just click on the link for Long Shot. You can sign up and actually come. You can come.
You can come. Some of the best food you'll have, and there's a shooting range that we go to, and there's golf outings, and there's a bunch of fun stuff that we
sleeping.
do. So lots of sleeping.
Frisbee swimming. Yeah, remember we had that guy? We saw a guy last year jump in cold water. I don't know what he was thinking, but
with the economy it is, that $12 Frisbee is worth like $20 nowadays.
Yeah,
it's worth the swim.
It's worth the swim.
So it is worth the swim. Anyways, we're excited. Today we're kicking it off with a special guest. So Bill, why don't you introduce us to the special guest?
Well, before that, I want to let you know, check us out. I know you talked about, if you're interested and willing to be a part of donating or being a part of what we're doing to help the ministry of Known Legacy, you can go to the knownlegacy.org side and you can donate there. Your support matters because it helps us continue to do these things on a constant basis. So,
for those who have donated, man, thank you so much. It is a fantastic blessing to us, and we say thank you, and thank you for listening. We know that there's no shortage of different podcasts you can tag into. So the fact that you would stop here and make this a part of your routine, we really, really do appreciate.
Do us a favor at YouTube, smash the like button on there and follow us so that we can continue those, so we can start to stream live from there as well.
Correct.
2 old guys. 3 old guys. That's how it goes. But yeah, I want to let you know I'm excited about our guest today because this whole season is about being bold and stepping out in faith, and this guy is the epitome of this. John Mark Eccles is actually the founder of the Fields Edge. I'll call it a ministry. I know that it's more than that. Fields Edge, cultivating home. The idea, really, and long story short, that he's going to share more, but it's essentially tiny homes to help the homeless get off the streets, and really, but it's more than that. I'm going to let him share some more of that. So, John Mark, we are so glad to have you on today. Welcome to the podcast.
Welcome.
Actually, I'm going to say welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome to you and your amazing beard.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Have you named your beard?
Years now.
Have you named it?
I've not named it, but I do have an ASL sign language sign for a friend of mine that is deaf. He's given me this as my name.
That's awesome. You have arrived. You have arrived, my friend.
So if you would like to name the beard, info@knownlegacy, or leave it a comment, and we are submitting names for the beard if you would like to.
Believe it or not, I cut 4 inches off of it about a month ago. So
that's crazy. Yeah. Do you have a picture? You might need to send us a picture of the longer beard, just so we can know.
I'll find one.
Please do. Well, dude, share a little bit about your story, because when we met years ago, I can remember. I mean, we're talking at least a decade ago, and this is long before this was even, I guess, a thought. But I could see it already stirring in your heart, the passion for the homeless, just the homeless community, and wanting to help out. We had met at, there was another ministry called Church Under the Bridge, where they would meet on a weekly basis to serve the homeless, but then also do kind of a church service. And that's when we first met, and I was like, this dude has a heart for this, and I don't know how to change that. I don't know what to say about it, but share your story a little bit from that point on, if you could, or just share your story. Let us know who you are.
Yeah, I'll start just a little bit before then, because it really, that was the beginning of my walk with Christ. I was a pretty new believer when I ended up at Church Under the Bridge, and had pretty much gone my whole life thinking that I was a believer, mostly just because I was associated with the church in some way through my parents or something like that. But as I went off to college, I just left all of that behind and went to the world really hard for a while. So when I came back to Midland, really unwillingly, as most people do, I was miserable. I was probably in the lowest point of my life.
Wow.
I had gone through that tornado in Tuscaloosa in 2011, and that ended my senior year at Alabama and sent me home early. So I think that was something that in my story that the Lord has really used to bring me to himself, was that really difficult and terrible experience. But so that got me back to Midland, and really brought me to a place where I had to face myself and realize that the way I was living was not good or healthy or anything. And I got super lonely because I was in Midland, but I didn't know anybody here yet, or they had not come back from school or whatever. They were still out. So it was like being a stranger in my own town. So really what really amazing story would happen. I was at the swimming pool with my friend who was a roughneck, and I only saw him like once a month. And a little boy came over to play with us, and after a while, his dad came over and said, "Hey, my name's Shane, and thanks for playing with my son, and just want to tell you guys about this young professional Sunday school class over at the First Baptist Church, and you should come check it out." Wow. And in my head, I was like, "Oh, thank you very much," but in my head, I was really just like, "Oh yeah, sure." Not interested in that. I had this whole idea that all church people were weird, and that it was just going to be not my scene at all, because I was way too cool for that. So anyway, after a few weeks, I ended up going because I was just so lonely, and I thought hopefully somebody here will be somewhat normal that I can hang out with. And I went, and of course it was way better than I had imagined it would be, and met some great guys really right off the bat that took me in and brought me into their men's group. And again, this whole time I'm thinking, well, I am a believer, but I kind of don't really need the church, and it's just between me and God. But it wasn't at all. And so we got into a men's group Bible study, and we were going through Tim Keller's Reason for God, and that's when I heard the gospel for the first time, just clear as day. And I was like, wow, this good news is way better than I had thought it was. And so that's really kind of the setting to where I met my wife in that same Sunday school class. Her company was involved with Church Under the Bridge, and that's how we got invited over there to serve the homeless. And truthfully, growing up in Midland, for those that aren't familiar with this area, it's a very well-off area, and I really did not think that we had homeless people, to be honest with you. And so to find that there was a church that was just for homeless people, I was like, what? This is crazy. And at the time, they were McDonald's was hiring people for $18 an hour and picking them up from work, and I'm like, this just doesn't make sense to me that anybody would be homeless right now. And so it was a huge eye-opening experience for me to get even introduced to that.
Dang. Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because I remember the more we've delved deep with those who walk with those who are homeless, it's not just you're lazy. It really isn't. And can you go into that a little bit? Because you mentioned like $18 an hour, but then why is there homelessness? Can you share a little bit about that when you saw that? I mean, I'm guessing it's part of the journey, but share a little bit about that if you can dig into that a little bit more.
Absolutely. So I show up to Church Under the Bridge, and I was a business major, and so I'm kind of a fixer type person, and I think, okay, well, I see that there are these people who don't have a place to live, and in order to get a place to live, they're going to need to get cleaned up, get a job and some transportation, and boom, homelessness is over. And I was honestly like the chief naysayer when it came to homelessness. I was like, why don't they just go get a job? Like they're just being lazy. I was that guy. And so as I went to Church Under the Bridge and met people, I actually brought my dog with me because I just didn't know how to talk to people, because you can't ask them, where do you live? Where do you work? All the small talk that we use is like, it's just not there. So my dog helped me break the ice, and I really quickly just started to realize that they're living almost in a whole different, like, alternate universe than us in a sense. Like, they're in this survival mentality that they're so concerned with, what am I going to eat next? Where am I going to sleep tonight? That like long-term planning is almost impossible. And just to recognize some of those barriers pretty quickly as I got involved. One of them is as simple as having an ID. If you don't have an ID, you're not going to be getting a job or staying at a hotel or anything. And then if you don't have a permanent address, it's real tough to get an ID. And so just that barrier alone is huge. And then out here in Midland, the transportation barriers is pretty big, because we don't have a great bus system, and a lot of the available jobs are out in the county. And if you don't have a car, you can't get there. And so I started to realize that there were things that were barriers to people getting out of homelessness, that a lot of times they felt like they had no control to change. They felt powerless. And so that was a huge eye-opener for me, is just realizing that it's not necessarily just a material poverty, but it's the fact that they feel like less than human.
Yeah, I remember there was a guy I talked to who was working at a landscaping company, and he was living in a tent in a field a way back, and that they tried to work with him, but they're like, we can't legally. Like, it wasn't that they didn't want to; it's they legally couldn't give him a job without an ID and without to pay him legally and all that kind of stuff. And I began to see the cycle of they can't go anywhere. You can't be like, tent 5 on field 8. Like it just didn't. And I'm not trying to be facetious, but I'm saying like they couldn't. No one would let him in to have a place. And so you're starting there. You're seeing all this stuff at Church Under the Bridge. What sparked in you the step to make a change? What share that a little bit.
Yeah, I will. And just knowing that the theme is boldness here. My story is a little, I don't know, I'd say unique, maybe not unique, but I think that the way the Lord has worked in my walk with him is that he has known that that I guess maybe I'm somewhat skeptical and have doubts and all those questions. And he's been super gracious to not necessarily take me to just giant leaps. And what I mean by that is it's really looked like a lot of really small steps of faithfulness just along the way. And then all of a sudden we're somewhere else because he's just, been directing the path. So it really just began with us showing up at Church Under the Bridge every week and building those relationships and making friends and trying to help where we could and making mistakes and getting taken advantage of and all kinds of things to really just continue to draw us in. And so we served at Church Under the Bridge for about 3 years before really doing much else. And I was doing the night strikes. So we'd go out in the winter at night when it was cold and check on people, bring them sleeping bags and all that. And so during all that, I was just growing relationships and trying to learn about homelessness. And I was still working in my career and everything was great. Just never really anticipated what would happen next. But after a couple of years, I got invited to our local homeless coalition to be part of that. And as part of that, we were told about this place in Austin called Community First Village that had built a tiny home community to lift homeless people off the street. And we thought that was exciting and really cool. So we went to check it out and thought, man, this is amazing. We need to have this in Midland. And still at the time, though, I really did not think that it would be something I'd be doing full time. I thought, well, I've got my thing going on over here, and I'll support this and I'll help, and maybe I'll be the guy that gets rich and throws the money at it. I don't know.
Yep.
But that's not what happened. And there's been a lot of things like that along the way that the Lord's just kind of continued to put small steps in front of me that, it's not a huge step. After years of looking back, you see that He's taken you someplace that you never really expected to go, and that's where we are right now.
That whole one small step at a time. The verse that we always go back to is, "Thy word is a lamp unto my feet, and a light unto my path." Yeah. And it's this idea that, like in my American. I have flashlights, and I love flashlights, and I got flashlights that go 30 feet, and I got flashlights that go 3 miles. And I think for so long in my life, that's how I interpreted that verse of like, oh, He's giving me a flashlight, and He's going to show me the end of the destination. And you think back in the context of the day, it was like, no. Literally, it was a little flame at the end of a lamp that literally gave you enough light. Yeah, it was a candle that gave you enough for the next step.
Yeah.
And so often, I find in my own faith walk, that's how God operates. That's His economy, man. He doesn't tell us the end. He says, I just want you to take the next step. And when you take the next step, then I'm going to show you the next step. So what was that like for you? Like, was there an internal battle to step, because that's a bold step to leave your career and become the kind of point guy at this this little house development that you're putting in Midland. What were some of the internal battles for you? What were the conversations with your wife? How were you bold in those moments as well?
Yeah.
Man, I got to tell you, the way that it went down with my wife was really incredible. And there's kind of a lot of stuff that was going on in this season of our life. We had just built a house. We had just had our first baby. We were like settling in, and my background, I was like a country club kid, private school kid, totally oblivious to poverty altogether. My wife's story is almost the opposite. Like she grew up in poverty, grew up in families with abuse going on, all kinds of things. And so for her, and I will say, like, she and I are doing this together. I'm just the guy that is the face right now because she's at home with our 3 kids and 1 on the way, but she's in this too. But yeah, when I was feeling the call to like maybe jump into this thing full time, I was really concerned with telling her because I thought she was going to be like freaked out by it because it was the first time in her life that she really had some really good stability, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so what happened was the way that progressed, my little brother was a geologist in Austin, and he and his wife tell our family that they're going overseas for missions, and we're all like, what? Wow, that's such a crazy change. And everyone's freaking out. They ended up going to Southeast Asia for about 5 years. And
oh, wow.
So as that's happening, we did one of the 24-hour poverty simulations here in Midland, where I was on the street, going through that. And on the way home from that, I turned on my podcast, and it was just the random one, and it was an Ask Pastor John podcast, and it was the clip from Don't Waste Your Life, that famous sermon. And it just like totally convicted me all the way down. I mean, the premise being like, what are you doing with your life? Are you living for God, or are you just doing something frivolous by default almost? And I realized that this is kind of what I was doing. I was just kind of going down this path that I thought that I was sort of expected to take. And it was this real crisis where I'm like, okay, I've been working towards these things and all that. And I've been, having these plans and dreams and goals. And now I feel like that might be in question, and the Lord might be moving some way else, but I don't know what that looks like. And so the first thing that we decided that I thought we wanted to do was that we would just downsize our house, that we would just live more simply, and so that we could support this ministry effort more. Because again, I didn't think that it was going to be my full-time deal. And so the first topic of conversation we had was selling our house, and that was really scary for me to bring up to her. So like the bold man that I am, I texted her while I was at work, and I said, "Hey babe, can we have a conversation tonight? I really need to talk to you." And she says in the text, "Do you think we should sell our house?"
What?
And I said,
That's crazy.
I said, "Yes." And she said, "Me too." And
What?
that was it.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was nuts. And so I'm just like at work, like, what is happening? Like this is way beyond what I expected. And so that like fast forward from that, I had gone down to this tiny home community in Austin, saw it, it was great, met the people, and I get this email from them that they're going to do this 4-month missional internship thing that really would be designed for somebody like in college or coming out of college with no kids and no responsibilities and all the stuff, where you would live on site there for about 4 months and train and work and all this stuff. So I thought, well, that's really neat, but there's no way we could do that. I was a consultant at the time, so I kind of had some flexibility in what I was doing, but it was not meant for a family. But the Lord just kind of kept putting it in my mind, like just kept thinking about it. And so I sort of kept mentioning it in passing to my wife, and she finally was like, why don't you just call them and like see what they say? Because both of us expected that they would say no.
Right.
And so we call and say, hey, listen, we just like, this has been coming up and we feel like the Lord has kind of given us this nudge, and it doesn't seem like it's a good idea, but we thought we'd just do our due diligence. And they were like, oh yeah, we could absolutely accommodate you guys. And we're like, what?
No.
That wasn't the answer we were looking for.
We really wanted you to say no. Could you? I'll call back. Say no again.
Yeah. So I told Brianna, and she's like, "Are you serious? That's crazy." And so then they invited us to come down there for a weekend and meet them, and so we went to check it out, and we're like, "What is happening?" And so this is a funny story. So we go there, and we're having dinner with this couple who's kind of our host couple, and end up being our community leaders. And I'm having the best time. I'm sitting in this RV. I'm like, man, this is exciting. This is great. I love this place. These people are cool. Meanwhile, we have an 18-month-old daughter who is just going nuts in the house, in the RV, and like nearly breaking things. And I'm totally oblivious to the fact that my wife is next to me, like having a panic attack, like, what is happening? This is too much. I'm overwhelmed. My daughter is tearing up this place. Where are we? What is God doing? And so we leave and get in the car, and I'm like, I'm jazzed. I'm like, man, this is so cool. And my wife just starts crying, and I was like, oh man, what a dummy.
Yeah.
To not pay attention to.
We've all been there, man. We have all been there.
Like today, I think I was there today. Wow.
Yeah. So like we leave that and kind of as things continue, we're in church and we're going to Sunday school and we're reading the Word, and everything was confirming, like, you need to go. Like it was just like in the face. Both of us could not deny it. And I think that's what I would say of a calling that the Lord gives you, is like, you can fight against it. You can be like Jonah, but he's going to come and get you.
Yeah.
And you will do it. So that's the way calling works. The Lord is sovereign in that. So
wow. Wow. So okay. So when did you? Because I remember seeing the pictures online of you living in an RV. So like with your kids. And so share. So okay. So share what happened next. Kind of okay. You guys came back. You ended up doing the 4-month thing, right?
We
did. That correct? Okay.
So the first thing we did was put our house on the market, and of course I thought, well, since the Lord is calling us to do this, like the house is gonna sell quickly, and also it's gonna sell for above asking price, because like that's just makes
all
sense.
These
like
temporal affirmations, of the Spirit's moving, and
Sure.
God has different plans, doesn't He?
Yeah, and so that's not what happened. Our house was on the market for 11 months, and we lost a lot of money on it.
Wow.
Kind of built it in the height of the boom and sold it in the bust, and so that's the way things are out here. But that was just another one of those steps that the Lord asked us to take. Like, I want you to trust me in this. And I know this doesn't make sense financially in a lot of ways, but you just need to trust me to provide for you.
Yeah.
And so we put the house on the market and we bought an RV and we moved in the RV down to Austin for 4 months at the Community First Village. We, in the meantime, were selling pretty much everything else that we owned. We really, at that time, did not know what the Lord was going to ask of us. We thought that it might be to come back and build one in Midland. That's what we wanted to do. But the way things were going, it was just like, man, he might call us anywhere at this point. You know, we might go to Austin and meet some people and they want us to come help them start a village in, you know, Seattle. I don't know. It could be anything. So we were just kind of flying by the seat of our pants in a lot of ways. Our families were pretty concerned about those decisions, I will say.
Yep.
And rightfully so. I mean, I'm a dad too, and looking back, I can see that the concern they had for me was legitimate. I didn't handle it well, I'll say, and had to repent for that in some ways. But anyway.
Well, and what I find is when we follow God, often it seems absolutely crazy to the people around us and people that love us. And that's why, like you said, the calling has to be so in your heart and in your mind, like there's nothing else we can do. Inescapable. That's a good word. And because like people that love us are like, you guys are crazy. And you're like, yes, but my God's a big God. And if he's calling it and he's willing it, he's going to make it happen. You know,
beyond the romantic, you know?
Well, and somebody told me one time, like, and I wouldn't say this is the best piece of advice, but it is something to consider. Like, if you feel like you have a calling on your life, that if there's anything else that you could conceivably do, it's like you should almost like run the trap to get to the dead end almost. If that makes sense. Not, like just to, I mean, and I'm again coming from this kind of skeptical position. Like, it's hard for me to just boldly jump out and trust the Lord into something so unknown. And my point being that like if you were to go and pursue anything beyond your calling, like the Lord is going to let you know. He's going to come after you, and he's not going to let you shake it, and he's going to pursue you. And if it's what he wants you to do, you're going to do it.
So, and I completely agree with that. And often it's a hidden idol that we have that's calling us or thinking that we have another option. And it's this moment that on this journey, God says, you can pursue that idol, but I'm going to ask you to lay that down at some point. And that's when things get really beautiful. So homelessness is obviously, it's a multifaceted thing. It's not just a roof over your head. There's other things that are haunting families, and there's other cyclical things that are kind of, will show up again and again. So how do you guys address some of that stuff besides just giving a roof and providing space for them? Which, looking at your picture, you are in one of the tiny houses, correct?
Yeah, we will be. We haven't moved in yet, but we're going to be moving into one ourselves, and I'm actually sitting in our model house right now. This is one that we built early on to show people what we were going to try to build. It's actually on a trailer, and we towed it around to churches and stuff just to cast the vision, because it was such a unique thing to try to tell people what we were going to do. Every time we said we want to do a village for homeless people, they thought blue tarps and trash can fires.
Right.
And we're like, no, not what we're doing at all. So that we had to kind of paint the picture for people, but I got sidetracked on your question for a second. what were you asking?
No. Well, homeless, it's multifaceted. The issues and challenges that homeless people deal is multifaceted, and so it could be some addiction issues, it could be some cyclical abuse issues, and just financial, wisdom kind of stuff. And so, like, what do you guys do in those situations as well?
Well, so for us, we see those triggers to homelessness, like loss of job and addiction and mental health and all those things. Those are real issues that we do have to address, and we do provide supportive services to address those needs, like counseling and physical health, mental health care. We have a clinic out here that we're partnering with Texas Tech to bring people out to staff.
Wow.
Pretty regularly to provide those needed services. We're working with some addiction recovery people as well. But for us, as our heart is definitely that they would know Christ. I mean, the thought for us is if we can lead somebody to Jesus and they have a radical heart transformation they're born again, that our work is so much more downhill than it is if we're working with somebody who has a stony heart, and we're trying to get them to conform to some kind of a moral standard and a way of life. So if that's coming from the heart level, that's so much better. And of course, our greatest concern for the people that we serve is that they would be saved and know the Lord and be with him forever, know his forgiveness and his grace. So our focus as an organization in everything is to get down to the gospel, and let that steer everything we're doing, for that to be central in all of our supportive services, and then for anything else we do to kind of be tertiary. We partner with people who specialize in mental health care and in addiction and those things, but we're here for ministry. That's our place, our role. To be neighbors, to love them, to lead them to Christ, and then to provide these other services, a lot from the outside.
So let me ask you this question then. As you do this, let's say there's a guy or a wife or someone who's listening to this, and their heart is like captured by this, and like, man, that resonates with something that God's put on my heart. What are some simple things they can do to get involved with you guys? How do they reach out to you guys? How do they maybe support you financially in this process? If, let's say, they are the ones that made the $1 million and they're just like, man, I got all this money and I just need something to make a difference.
Yeah.
What would you say to them to get involved, either financially or like boots on the ground, with you guys?
Yeah.
How can they get involved?
For us, our heart for people that get involved with us is that they would be involved with their time, their talent, and their treasure. Like that's the key. We don't just want your money. We don't that's not what we're about. We want you, and we want your heart. We want your involvement. We need your gifts. Like, this is where the body of Christ is so necessary, because it's so multifaceted. So we do need those boots on the ground. Of course, we need finances to operate. And if people do want to give, they can give on our website at www.thefieldsedge.org. And that's the best way. But we have ways to get involved in so many different places. In a relational context, if your heart is just like, I want to be someone's friend, that's huge for us. We need that. Just show up, take people to lunch, take people to the doctor, hang out, just be somebody's friend. That's huge. If that's not necessarily your bent, we have positions for an entrepreneurship committee that we're putting together. We have landscaping needs. I mean, like, any gift that you've been given, there's a place for it to be put to work out here, and all the way up to what we call our missional community, which this is a huge one. What that is, in every group of 10 houses, basically we've got 23 acres. We're building 100 tiny homes.
That's cool.
90 of them are for people who are considered chronically homeless. That just means they've been homeless for at least a year in Midland. They're unaccompanied. They don't have any kids, and they're living in a place not meant for human habitation. But the other 10 houses are what we call missional homes. So you can imagine that they're arranged in these circles. All the homes face each other. They all have front porches. There's a common bath, kitchen, and laundry facility that we built that way to facilitate interaction. So you actually don't have a bathroom and kitchen in your house. And so in each one of those pods, there's a home that is for somebody to live there on purpose, to be a community builder. So that's what my family and I are going to be doing in this first phase. So basically we're city missionaries to the homeless, and that's what we're going to be needing 9 more of in the future. So you may be called to live out here with us and be missional residents.
Be bold, man.
That's
be
awesome.
bold. The harvest is plentiful, man. The workers are few. Thank you for being one of those workers and for being bold and following God in such a unique but powerful way.
I noticed a few weeks ago, and so when was the actual, so there was groundbreaking, but then it was the actual opening ceremony. I mean, and it was already going, but when was the grand opening? A few weeks ago, correct?
We did the grand opening on August the 4th, and we had anticipated having all the houses finished, everything done, people moving in the next week, but then construction schedule and all the fun supply chain things happened, and that did not happen. So we did our grand opening, and we're finishing up the tiny home construction. We should be moving people in within the next month.
God
That's
bless
amazing.
you, man.
That's so cool. So I love it.
It's cool because all the houses are spoken for. We got to come out here and let the people pick their home, which was really cool.
That's so cool.
Our whole mission is about empowerment. Giving somebody the opportunity to see that they have gifts and empowering them to put them to work.
Yeah.
And then just dignity. We think that offering choice, like getting to pick your house, is a measure of dignity. And it speaks to the fact that every human being is created in the image of God, and we ought to treat them that way. So that's who we are and what we're doing. And
my final question for you,
more of you get involved.
Man, my final question for you is this: when did you start growing the beard? Because it is beautiful.
Well, the story behind the beard is that in high school and college, I had to shave it most days twice a day.
Wow.
Because they were so strict in my dress code. And after I was let loose from that, I said I'm never shaving again. And
that's my man.
I think that I shaved it once during COVID, back when I thought that I had to wear like a respirator when I was running around on the street.
Right.
And I had a mustache that my wife hated more than anything, and never again. My kids do not want me to ever not have a beard. So
that's amazing. I love it, dude.
But if the Lord called me to shave it off, I guess I would.
There you go.
I could see his obedience there. I don't think God is that mean.
No.
And so. No, dude. Listen, this has been awesome, and before we go, because we're gonna have you on again, because I definitely want to take more of this.
I want an
update. We're gonna have an update
yeah.
in a few months. We'll try to get you back on quick, but I do have a couple of questions that we ask all of our people. They're called Fast Five. I don't know if you saw them on there they are.
Oh yeah, I did.
Okay, good.
I'm ready.
Okay, good. So first one question: what would you have for your last meal?
Well, I started the menu with buttered popcorn, and that might sound weird, but I really love popcorn. It's my favorite snack.
That's awesome.
I had a procedure a couple of months ago, and I was coming out of the anesthesia, and they asked me what I wanted. I said buttered popcorn. So that would be number one.
That's awesome.
The rest is pretty traditional. I'm a steak guy. I love steak, so I have a big old fat ribeye. And definitely finish it off with some ice cream. That's
hallelujah
totally necessary.
That's worship.
Okay, so I got to ask though. Everyone has their special way of making popcorn. What's your special way? I use bacon grease. What do you use?
Ooh, that's a good one to try.
Sounds amazing.
We do right now. We use just like olive oil in the microwave, and like regular fresh butter is kind of our method.
Bacon grease.
Yeah. The smoke point of bacon grease is about the same point of the kernels popping, so it gives a little smokiness to it. Oh, dude, it's fantastic.
I'm gonna have to save my bacon grease now.
I'll be doing that this afternoon.
You might set your house on fire, but it's worth it. It's worth it if it's a good popcorn.
If he does set it on fire, he has one that he can go into right now, and you're like, honey, it's worth it. It was worth trying.
When the update comes on, so the last time we talked, my house burned down.
Because you're an idiot, Travis, and you made me cook it with bacon grease. Okay, number 2, Stranded Island. What's one album or musician you would want to listen to forever?
Oh man, I'm a huge Deadhead, so you have to be the Grateful Dead.
Wow, That's the first time we've had a Deadhead.
I know. That's
pretty awesome. Wow, that's pretty cool.
Trucking, I got my patent. Anyways, I don't know the lyrics, but I know the songs.
You got your what?
Nothing. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, Kyle. Go back to your technology.
Moving on to number 3, guilty pleasure. What's your guilty pleasure?
Well, I do enjoy pipe. I'm a pipe guy.
Okay.
I'm a Scotch guy. I like having a nice glass of Scotch.
A man after my own heart.
I really don't have any guilt about those things. I feel really free.
Exactly. They don't have to be riddled with guilt. But you knew what I meant when I asked the question, guilty pleasure. So that's good. Okay, number 4. What's one word your wife would use to describe you?
Definitely goofy. I'm just a goofy dude. I try to keep it light. I try to be optimistic. And so I like to be pretty goofy. I'd say that'd be a good one for me.
Awesome. Okay, how do you want to be remembered when you die?
That's a great question. Well, I mean, thinking about that in the context of my kids, like I want them to see that I desperately needed Jesus, and that I was totally dependent on him. I want them to see that. I want them to see me as the chief repenter in our house. And so as that translates into like my legacy, I just want I want people to see that I'm not perfect, that I sin, that I make mistakes, that I fumble and do a lot of things that, you know, just aren't great, but that the Lord used me, and that even in the obedience that I had to the Lord, that He is so faithful even when we're not. Just I guess what I'd like for people to see is faithfulness.
That's awesome.
Love it.
Awesome.
Man,
then,
it has been a blessing to have you.
There's a bonus. What
bonus
biblical
question.
character would you want to have lunch with who's not Jesus?
Oh, man, I thought about this one. So I've been reading through chronologically. I do that every year. And just got out of Elijah. And, man, I would want to eat with him for several reasons. One, because I sort of identify with him in a lot of ways, that, like, I pretty regularly have to be a wet blanket and deliver bad news to people. And that's kind of hard. But I think I would want to get lunch with Elijah, to like encourage him, like, hey man, hang in there. You can, the Lord's with you. And here's some delicious Chick-fil-A, and let's keep on going, because that's what I would want for him to do for me.
That's awesome.
I want to hang out with you. I desperately want to hang out with you. We need to get out there and do a tour.
We need to do a tour. It'd be really, really cool to get out there and be a part of it. John Mark, thank you so much for being on today. Again, you can check him out, thefieldsedge.org. And so check that out. If you're close to the West Texas area, get involved over there, make a difference, have a conversation. But what I love about this is John Mark, which is a normal dude who God got a hold of his heart and changed everything. And
had to make some bold steps.
Yeah, and so it's not beyond anybody, and that's what I love about it. Dude, you're a rock star, and I'm grateful that you're a part of this. Thank you for being a part of today. I hope you have a good rest of the day, and we are grateful to have you on today. Guys, check us out at knownlegacy.org, Instagram, Known Legacy, all the places. Like us on YouTube, and thank you so much for listening today. Travis, you got anything?
No, thank you guys very much. Info at Known Legacy. If you got any questions, if you want to reach out to him, you can get there from us.
Yep.
And we appreciate it. So thank you guys. Remember, each one of us is being called to be bold somehow, some way within our own lives. So never doubt that.
Have a great week. See you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Known Legacy Podcast. We'd love to hear from you. So email us your questions or comments to info@knownlegacy.org.